everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Rani and I'm one half of the Indecisive Readers. Today I am here to do my September wrap up. In September I did not really read anything. I knew I wasn't going to read any physical books going into the month, but turns out I just wasn't really going to read. Ironically, I now have a job and I'm reading more this month. I've read like 2 books already. And 2? 3? I've read books already. And yeah, I'm reading more at work, which probably shouldn't say, but anyway, I read 5 books in total and I finished another one outside of the month, which I will include because I read 75% of it this month. Out of those 5 books, 3 were ebooks, 1 was an audiobook and 1 was a physical book. My average rating was 4.4 stars, 1 3-star, 1 4-star and 3 5-stars. So yeah, let's just get in and see what they are. I'm also going to mention a couple I started but didn't quite finish. The first being The City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty. I started this as an audiobook whilst I was going on runs because I wanted something to listen to and feel productive with, but I wanted to read something I was familiar with, and because I wanted to vaguely reread them, I don't know if I will actually finish rereading them. I went for this and very much enjoyed it, very much enjoyed kind of seeing into a world I was vaguely familiar with, but with a bit more information about it. I also started reading the Falling in Love montage by Kira Smith, and I think I'm gonna DFN it rather than DNF it. So I'm gonna put it down for now because I did really enjoy it, but I just don't think I'm in the mood for it. It's quite summery, and it's not that I'm not in the mood for it. I would enjoy it, but there are just other ones I need to read. And yeah, I just don't think I'm going to pick it up again anytime soon. So the first book I read physically was The Black Flamingo by Dean Atta. I rated this one 5 stars. This book is about a boy called Michael who travels through all the stages of his life. It goes from his birth to his kind of university experience where he doesn't quite fit anywhere. He is exploring his sexuality, his race, his gender, and everyone around him just doesn't quite fit. And this ends and focuses on his experience at university where he finds a drag club and suddenly seems to find his people. It's very different to the kind of books I usually read. It's written in verse, and I don't think I've ever read anything in verse before, or not many things, and it's also YA contemporary, which is something I've not read a lot of recently. I really enjoyed it. The way it was written made it quick to read, which helped me because I wasn't reading. I enjoyed the kind of colours of the page, the illustrations on the page. I liked how they kind of related to the content and the actual writing. I think how it was written made accessible and covered a lot of really important themes that you wouldn't usually read about, and themes that I appreciated reading about. It's kind of covered race, gender, identity, sexuality, and it was for a YA audience, which I think was really important, the fact that it's there, and that's good. There also was no happy Disney happily ever after, but there was a kind of happy ending and it was quite satisfying. The next book I finished was Pretending by Hallie Bourne. Again, rated this one 5 stars. Pretending follows this woman called April who is a couple of years out of a sexually abusive relationship, and she is trying to navigate the world of dating again, but with this trauma kind of attached to her. She's finding it very hard to do the normal things in a relationship because she doesn't want to do the sex because it triggers her, and she decides instead of being April she's going to be Gretel to start dating. And when she is Gretel she finds dating a lot easier, and then she finds herself accidentally falling for the guy she is essentially catfishing. I listened to this as an audiobook but now also own it physically because Sam and I found it in a charity shop like that week. And I actually listened to it like 1.5, 1 3/4 times because I made Sam listen to it as well, and enjoyed it as much the second time round. But it was actually quite interesting to listen to it a second time round knowing how like the end would go, and he was like, is this gonna happen, am I gonna hate this? And I'm like, I can't tell you. But I liked how the audiobook was done. I liked because there's like some notes from someone and text, and it like have click 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 sound effects. So once again, Hallie Bourne is covering some really interesting, really important issues in this, namely sexual assault in this one. So big trigger warnings for sexual assault. It doesn't happen on the page, but there are flashbacks to and mentions of sexual assault, and there are other victims of sexual assault, and also she works in a charity that kind of deals with the victims of sexual assault and people writing to them and saying, what can I do? And while she also deals with other things, because that is what's triggering to her, that is mostly what she focuses on. I enjoyed the fact that it was focusing on the recovery rather than the incident itself. Not only had a lot of time passed, but she was actually seeking out some help to sort it out for her, and I thought that was really good. I liked the options it gave, that it wasn't just therapy, there were other things she pursued, and I liked how she talked to people about it, apart from one particular person, which was problematic. I also found problematic April at the start. I didn't like her, but when I was talking through it with Sam, we were like, we know we shouldn't not like her, and the things that we don't like about her have manifested because of things that have happened to her, and so we feel sorry for her. But as the book goes on, I realised it wasn't her I disliked, it was Gretel. Gretel's pretty terrible, don't like her, and so was satisfied with April, was pleased for her by the end, and I definitely liked Josh, and once again it's a Hollyborn happy ending, and I did like it. I do like a Hollyborn romance, not a typical romance but a really interesting one. The next book I finished was Legendborn by Tracy Dion. I rated this one 5 stars. Initially it was 4.5 stars just because it took me a while to get into, but I realised I think I was just slumpy and it shouldn't reflect on the book. That's not fair. It's about this black girl who is kind of in an Arthurian retelling. Well, not a retelling, obviously it's not retelling for her, it's kind of like real, but for us it's a retelling. It's in a world where Arthur and his Knights of the Round Table actually exist, and their kind of traits have been passed down through the generations, and now this black girl finds herself in a very white setting. I have many thoughts, I will link my review down below, but she is exploring the death of her mother because she thinks there's more to it, and she gets herself involved in this kind of magical society. This was probably my most anticipated book of the year, and I really enjoyed it. It lived up to my expectations. It didn't blow me away in the moment, but I've still been thinking about it like weeks later, and so really impactful, really enjoy it. And it's really interesting because it puts this black protagonist as the start of all these YA tropes. So there's a love triangle, there's the chosen one, and there are all these things that if you just list them they sound outdated, but they sound outdated in a white context. They've never had a chance for a black girl to explore them, and so I heard the author talking about them and it was just really interesting to hear. I think it's my favourite book of the year. I very much enjoy it. I really liked the world building and the storytelling. I thought it was really intense. I thought it was really well thought out, and the magic and the it's good. And then the ending was really interesting. I was talking to Sam about it. We both said it wasn't surprising, but we liked it, like how it was done, and the details of it surprised us. And the love triangle, I actually like the love triangle. That's not me. I don't like romances, and so to actually enjoy the love triangle, I'm actually team all three. I think I'm team Brie primarily, but I would be happy with whoever she ends up with, but I think all of them should end up together. The next book I read was A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik. This came out like around the same time as I was reading it because I was reading an arc. Hi everyone, I'm just jumping into this video to address something I actually saw come up a couple of days after I filmed it, or possibly even the next day. Basically, I really enjoyed A Deadly Education when I read it. However, it has since come to my knowledge that some of the things in the book were not problematic, and I think me not noticing them is due to the fact that I am not one of the underrepresented people. I'm not one of the people that kind of their cultures were not necessarily taken advantage of, but kind of misrepresented. Basically, the main character is meant to be half English, half Indian, and I mean their heritage just isn't mentioned at all, other than the fact that they're meant to be like some evil sorceress kind of thing, and that's mostly it. And also like the characters like constantly spoken about as being dirty, and that's not necessarily to do with her heritage. It is explained in terms of plot points, but yeah, it's with everything else it's problematic. There's a very good review which I'll link down below which explains it better, but yeah, I just wanted to address it because I don't address it in the video. And I mean, you can tell how kind of amazing the kind of mixed heritage is by the fact that I just didn't mention it, because it was almost put in as a kind of, yeah, look at this character, they are definitely diverse, and they're not really. This book is about a magical school where the only way to get out is to graduate or to die. Basically, you're kind of trapped in it. There's no summer holidays, there's no friendship, there's no teachers, you just get through the year. And if you manage to get through to graduation, you have to go through this hall full of troubles. And if you get out, you're fine. Well, you're in the magical world, you live your magical life, but you just have to get through the year. And this follows Elle, who has the power to basically kill the whole world, but isn't using it, even though it would make her school year a lot easier, because it might also mean she kills her classmates. And it was sold as a dark feminist Harry Potter, but I think it's a lot more than that. I think it's much more interesting than that, and I think it's very unfair to label every magic school book as the next XYZ Harry Potter. I thought the Schools of Magic system and the magical creatures were much more interesting. I liked the map that has come with the finished copies, but I didn't see it, and it was very interesting. It's kind of like all the layers of it and all how it happens, and it was very sneaky. I enjoyed it. I thought Elle and Orion were really interesting. I like their dynamics together. I like their relationship, as well as her relationship with Lou and Adea. I think that's how you say their names. Her friends slash allies. And I also really enjoy the narrative voice. I feel like it's the kind that most people might not like, but I quite enjoyed her. I enjoyed her very weird, very niche insults like you undercooked steamed pudding, or you weasel mouth. Just very weird, but they made me laugh. The next book I read was Period by Emma Barnett, which is the September book club pick for Tits, and Feminist Bits, which is my feminist book club. I enjoyed it. I rated it 3 stars, but I found it was kind of interesting, but I already knew a lot of the stuff, which isn't necessarily her fault, more a kind of reflection on what I already knew. I thought it was good because it made periods funny and accessible and informative too. Might mean that men read about them and women feel more comfortable talking about them, and I thought it was very interesting to see how life has changed even since she was writing it. There's a lot more tampon tax will no longer exist, and there's a lot more talk about reusable period products, which she really doesn't talk about in this. But also so many things haven't changed, because I still haven't really seen a period advert on TV which is really about periods. It was also mostly about white feminism, but that's because of who she got her anecdotes from, but I still think it was interesting, and it covered a lot of things I wasn't expecting, like period poverty in the UK. The final book I'm going to talk about I didn't actually finish in September, but I did finish yesterday, which was the 4th of October, and I finished 70% of it in September. I just ran out of my library loan, and this was the audiobook for A Song of Wraiths and Ruin by Roseanne A. Brown. This is a African inspired mythology where there's one guy called Malik whose sister gets stolen by some kind of demon king, and he can get her back by killing this princess. Now the princess also wants to kill someone, but she wants to kill a king, and that is so she can have his beating heart to restore her mother to life, who has just been murdered. Now I didn't really know what to think of this, because a romance would be at the centre of it, but I think because romance was at the centre of it and I was expecting it, I ended up actually quite enjoying it. I enjoyed their chemistry, I enjoyed their relationship together, and I'm really interested to see how it will go in the sequel, because I think there's a sequel. Well, there will be a sequel given how it ended, but I'm interested to see where it will go, and I had no idea how the book was going to end. It shocked me in many ways. I rated it 4 stars because I don't know why actually. I just enjoyed how it was written, how the characters were. I enjoyed the magic system, and I quite enjoyed the fact that they both kind of had like mental health issues and how that was just included in fantasy that's so rarely done. And there were characters who did the betraying, and one set surprised me, but then one particular character who I think was meant to be the big surprise didn't surprise me, because I was like, you're being a bit too nice, I don't trust you. But yeah, I really enjoyed it, would definitely recommend, and have got the Fairy Loot edition and I'm very pleased because it's very pretty and I enjoy it. That may be the quickest wrap up I have ever done or will ever do. I think one, it's to do with the fact that I have written notes, all my notes on one page apart from for A Song of Wraiths and Ruin. I have only a few books, and also I really want to go and get in the bath. So I have done it quickly after work so I can edit it tomorrow at work, hopefully during my lunch break, because obviously I can't actually do this during work, but it's pretty easy to read. But anyway, yeah, if you enjoyed this, if you have liked these books, if you have read these books, have opinions, please let me know. I want to know all the thoughts on Legendborn. That is the one I'm currently like chasing everyone to read, and every time I see it appear and I'm like, oh my god, Legendborn, I love it. So yeah, I definitely want to hear thoughts on that, but also the rest of them. If you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up, let me know you're here, subscribe if you're not already, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.